Hello and welcome. I am having quite a lot of fun with my Dollhouse project, and I have quite a lot of ideas about things that I want to work on, but lots of them aren't quite fully formed yet. So, when I was trying to think about what I wanted to do next, I actually struggled a little bit to decide what I wanted to do. And then I was thinking about it, and one of the things I wanted to make was some tiny little floor rugs to go in the dollhouse. And I've been wanting to do some needle punch for a while, but I find it hard to talk myself into trying something new because I think when you've been making for a long time, like I have, you're good at lots of things because you've got so much practice. And it's a little bit hard sometimes to become a beginner again. And so I combated that feeling and decided to have my very first go at doing some needle punch. It started off very wonky, which is fine when you're a beginner. And I just had a go at it. The fabric I use is quite a loose weave, which you're supposed to do to be able to get the needle through. And I struggled a little bit to transfer my design onto it. So I'm half following the sketch and half winging it here. But I discovered it was actually quite enjoyable. Um, and I found that it was really important that the yarn was coming really loose off the ball. So I'll have to experiment with possibly rewinding my ball of acrylic yarn and then putting it on a yarn holder or something, just so that the yarn can move freely. But otherwise, it seemed to work quite well. Aside from my lack of practice, it was quite therapeutic and enjoyable. It seemed to work okay. I've made it quite wonky. I did find it a little bit difficult to put the next row of stitches close enough to the first row. So at the beginning especially, I would try really hard to put the row of stitches close, but then I would come back in between just so that I had a nice dense piece of fabric. And it was it was a little bit tricky, but it was quite good. I just bought this inexpensive needle punch tool. It has a few adjustable depths, so you can get some different lengths of pile. And I'm using just an 8-ply or DK weight yarn here, and it could easily handle a heavier weight yarn as well. So um, I was pretty happy with that. I've seen these all over the place, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just get one. My daughter has actually done some needle punch, and so I'd already bought the fabric that she had requested. So I actually didn't do a lot of research before I did this. I have watched a lot of people do needle punching on the internet and all of that sort of thing, but I didn't worry too much about it. I have done a little bit of troubleshooting with her just to see, like, to overcome some threading issues and stuff like that. But otherwise, I just sort of dived in and didn't worry too much. It did turn out quite wonky, but I think it's also great. So I think that is all you can think about, is that you did something. Obviously, if I practice, I would get better at it. But even this slightly wonky version of a first go, I think has turned out quite well, and I feel very happy about it. I am just using an embroidery hoop to hold the fabric taut, and I feel like it was fine, but it wasn't great. So I would be interested in using a different sort of stretching frame or something. Um, I've seen people like staple it on, which I think would possibly hold it a bit better. The fabric is quite, not necessarily stretchy, but quite loose and interesting, I guess, the way it behaves. Um, so, but because I quite enjoyed it, I feel like I'm likely to do it again and maybe only for small scale dollhouse things at the moment. But it was quite fun and I quite enjoyed it. So yeah, I might try a different way of stretching the fabric and holding it taut. I was a little bit scared of like stabbing myself with the needle, but I that didn't happen at all, so that was pretty good. If you have been trying this before and you have a favorite way of doing it, you should let me know, because I feel like I will be needle punching again. It just, I don't know, it's quite satisfying. It makes up quite quickly, all of that sort of thing. So it was quite a fun and enjoyable craft to do. I made sure that I worked these stitches quite tightly so I can't see the backing fabric anymore. And then I'm just going to trim the ends up. And needle punch is just like pushing loops through the fabric. So what I've done is I've gotten some PVA glue and I'm just covering the back with a nice layer of that, just so that all of these stitches bind together and it becomes more permanent. And I'm just going to let that dry and trim it out. So I am leaving enough fabric so that I can turn the ends under. I was thinking that I could just turn it in on the PVA glue, but it really wasn't tacky, and so I decided to just let it dry. And I am now just using some hot glue just to gently hold it. I was a little bit worried about using the hot glue just because sometimes it can give a lumpy finish, but I found it quite successful. So it gave a pretty flat, smooth edge as I was just sewing this little bit of an edge over. I decided not to put a backing on this, but you could easily glue a piece of backing on that if you wanted. The last thing to do for me is to trim it. I didn't actually have my fabric scissors with me while I was doing this, so I just had to find the sharpest scissors that I had. And I partially did this because I wanted a cut edge, not a looped edge, but also because I'm a beginner and it was quite lumpy and bumpy. But it was a fun project to work on, and I quite enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with me while I worked on this little rug for my dollhouse. And I hope that you can join me next time and let me know if you have any ideas of what I should work on next. Bye.